It's an elite human. And have you heard him sing?
He's like Bublé Jr.
He is Bublé Jr. He's the Cleveland Bublé. He is absurdly talented.
And he can sling the football.
Quarterback, he can sling it. All around good human being. But of course, this is the headline of the day. If you're just turning on and listening, both
Welcome.
Jamie Gillen and Anthony Walker Jr. on the reserve COVID-19 list. And listen, you have a little fun because at this point, what are you going to do? But this has been. I mean, I said this when we were coming in a different way, but essentially, you can't have nice things this year. Feels like any time we get any sort of momentum, or feel like we are healthy, or feel like we will be nearing 100%. I mean, we're coming off a bye for crying out loud. You're going to be without Njoku,
leading
Walker,
receiver,
Gillen,
and Harrison Bryant.
And Bryant.
You lost Conklin in that game.
And Conklin's already lost. Like, it's like you can't get to a game this year. And last year you got through so much. You handled so much adversity with COVID. I mean, you played games without any receivers. You played games without your head coach, and you're able to get through it. It has been a steady diet of this type of stuff all year. It's nobody's fault. It just sucks.
Yeah, and it's not just us. I mean,
no, it's not.
Ravens
but
would say, hey,
we're doing Cleveland Browns daily, so it affects us.
On BRD, they're like, pipe down over
there.
Pipe
down. Without anybody. But it's just like, holy cow, how much?
How much can you – listen, we've got to overcome it, but now no leading receiver, no leading tackler, no leading punter.
Who punts?
We're going to have to sign somebody, I would imagine.
Cole. Get a Shearling.
Oh, boy.
I don't know if Cole could get across state lines.
If it is Cole, he's on the show tomorrow.
No, for sure. It's Friday.
No doubt.
We would just – and honestly, if Cole was signed somehow miraculously, I have a feeling Cole can't get across state lines. But if he could and was able to be here on the program, like in the organization, he would be on the program tomorrow. We would do the interview as if he had never left. Rocky Top would come on.
That's right.
There would be hands and wax.
We still have that wax.
It's still sitting in there.
It's like the Smithsonian
signed by him. Look, I mean, you make light of it, but it's an absurd situation.
Yeah, that's a tough one because not only as a punter, not having a punter, is that a big
deal. Bring the
deal.
wax in, Gibby.
Yeah, bring it in. There it is for the people. This
Are we back on the stream?
Molded by Britton Cole himself right here in the studio. Signed, tough to sign wax, it turns out. Hasn't really, the signature. You can tell there was ink there at some point. But,
be like one of those things where you put sand in it so it shows up.
Oh, the return of luminaries now coming up the stairs. There they are. Oh, Pico today.
My God.
I mean,
popped collar.
Well, obviously.
Of course.
Oh. Now I think we're delving into Italy down
here. That's an Italian loafer.
Uh-huh. That's right.
An Italian loafer.
Oh, hands in the pocket. Stop it. Why would you do that?
Why would you not?
It's too much.
It's too much. It's so much going on. Yeah. So
here we are. We'll have to get a punter. And the punter's the holder.
We've got to get a punter.
The punter
got to get a holder.
Is the holder.
Jeez.
So I wonder, and this is no scores here. I have no idea what we're doing at punter, but I would if I don't even know if there is anybody that's feasibly out there, but you might look for somebody who has held for Chase McLaughlin in the past. If there was somebody that was with the Jets when he was with the Jets, if there's somebody that if there's any cross-pollination of somebody who was at one point in their career deemed good enough to be an NFL punter and held for Chase McLaughlin. I wonder if that's something that you do because they have that rapport.
I would assume that either Case Keenum or Baker Mayfield has held. Probably they both held at some point. And
for sure.
And I'm sure that Case has been maybe he does it once a week, like just holds just in case something were to happen because you'd have to have plans for that.
Just in what?
Just in case something were to happen, you'd have plans for those type of situations. But from a punter standpoint, just logistically, how do you get somebody? It's Thursday, Coach.
You get somebody here, and listen, punting. The good part about punting is it is
right, but with protocols, can
thing.
you get in that quickly?
Yeah, you'd have to be somebody who's vaccinated, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Or somebody who's on what you might be looking at is who's on a practice squad.
Yeah.
Is anybody carrying a punter on a practice squad in the National Football League? And if so, you can sign him to your active roster.
Yeah.
Listen, not ideal to be where we are, but the necessity of success on Sunday remains exactly the same, regardless of the difficulty.
No one's going to feel sorry for you.
Oh, no. And you've got to.
And certainly not this team.
You got to get taken care of. Now, look, Walker's your leading tackler, and he's been great lately. I mean,
he's been
really,
great.
really good. Double-digit tackles every week, and his hands on the football, all of that. So he's going to have to be replaced by Malcolm Smith, most likely, at that Mike spot. You got JOK flying around at the will. But then, does Jacob Phillips? He's back.
He could factor in.
He could
He's
back.
back.
Joe Wood said that earlier today, that he could be a guy who gets some reps, and then the veteran Elijah Lee as well. So against the Ravens, you need to be stout all three levels, but your linebackers make a lot of plays. And if you go back and you look at that game, you'd say to yourself, our two top leading tacklers were Anthony Walker Jr. and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Well, now you're going to be without Anthony Walker Jr., and it also affects the communication, the operation. He's the guy that's been taking, for the majority of the time, the play calls and communicating and getting everything right from his mic spot. So that good thing that you have a veteran like Malcolm Smith, and I'll go back to last year. When you needed a start from Jacob Phillips, it was Week 17 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Led your team in tackles, double-digit tackles in that game that propelled the Browns to the playoffs. So he's had it. Now you just wonder, how rusty is he, right? I mean, he hasn't played it.
Yeah.
He got hurt.
And of all the teams to come in back against, not this one.
And he got hurt in the joint practice against the Giants. I mean, that's how far back this went, early in that joint practice against the Giants.
Yeah, I think the punter thing is, you hate losing Walker. That's a pretty big deal. Can you?
It is. I think Walker is bigger. Walker, Chief are bigger.
Of course they're bigger. Chief's the biggest. I think if you're putting them in an order, Chief's number one.
That's right.
Walker's great. But, you're going to have to punt Sunday.
Yeah.
And you need somebody here today to get here. You're talking about holding on.
Here.
Somebody's here.
They just got to pass a physical, I would imagine. And
someone's probably
you got to
here.
go through whatever the.
So when do you find out about this, you think, logistically? Like last night you find out about it? Do you find out about it this morning?
No, probably this morning.
Okay, so this morning. So how quickly can you get somebody flown in here and get them passing the physical, and away you go? And then do you have that person hold, or do you have case hold, or what does that look like?
I will dive into that, and we'll. I think
get your people on.
We'll have a better handle on that by the end of the week, I would imagine. Because today, if, for example, Hammer tests positive this morning, which I'm guessing, he wouldn't have participated in practice today. So today you would have had probably Case holding.
Well,
tomorrow, once this person's here, do they do that, or they just keep Case?
They can do it, yeah. The other thing I would say, and I don't mean to further pile on, but you now have two players on the active roster who have tested positive along with David Njoku, and now you say to yourself, are there, in terms of guys who have been here, though, this is testing today, so that means they would have practiced yesterday. So now you have to wonder, are more coming? No one wants to hear that. God willing, knock on plexiglass, wherever the hell this is we're sitting on. That is something.
Ask the studio creator.
Well, he created. Gibby, what is this? Is this plexiglass?
It feels like real glass to me.
Yeah, it might. I don't think it's real. It's real, but anyway. You have to say that out loud. There could be more. Very likely, there could be more positive tests that happen tomorrow or the day after. And this is me speaking. This isn't I've said this for a long time. Vaccinated people who are asymptomatic, we're just going to have to live with this, I think. I think this notion that every time somebody who's vaccinated tests positive, that everything's got to be shut down. If there are no symptoms, to me, play through. Live through. I don't really know. This isn't going away, man.
No.
It's not like guess what? Next year we're going to be dealing with this too. Are we still going to be in the protocol? At some point, do you ever come out of the protocols?
I don't know.
And I don't know. Who knows about Walker and Gillen, if they're, what their circumstances are, and we have no idea. But if you're asymptomatic and you've been vaccinated and you've been I was talking to a guy the other day, works at a professional sports team in North America, and said our whole team not only has been vaccinated but boosted. We're not taking any chances. Whole team, whole organization vaccinated and boosted for all of this stuff, because it's just not worth it not to. And so you wonder, at some point you're just going to have to play amongst this. And I don't know where that leads us, but I think you'd be naive to suggest that these will not be nervy the next 24, 48 hours for this organization in terms of could there be more.
It is, and I think it's kind of the way that it is around the league and the way that it is around society. And I think you look at right now, the places being hardest hit, Ohio is among them in terms of the spread of COVID right now and new cases and hospitalizations. It's really centered kind of Michigan, Ohio, Illinois. It's centered right where we are, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have to deal with that and overcome it. And you'll have them back next week with a Thursday test. Now, here's the thing, though. The next game's a Saturday.
Oh, that's right.
So you might not have Walker or Hammer for that game.
Oh, no, because, usually it's
because when I was a Thursday, I was back Sunday.
Right. It's usually a 10-day
And I was
setup.
asymptomatic. I just didn't test negative. You have to have 2 negative tests within 5 days to be able to come back as an asymptomatic vaccinated person.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So
this could be
a 2
far-reaching
on those 2.
Yeah.
Because we're playing on Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not the way you want it to go.
No.
It's the way this season has gone, unfortunately for us, and I understand there are other teams around the league, but it does feel like I brought this up to you yesterday. Have we had a single game this year where you had the roster that you intended? And I think the answer to that was no. You have not had a single game this year where it's the roster you intended.
No,
and you won't now,
more
likely than not.
Right. The closest you got, I think, was probably last week in the sense that you made the decision for your roster to be what it was going into that game as it relates to Odell, obviously.
Yeah.
And you had Conklin, and he got hurt very early.
Very early, yeah.
Second series, maybe?
Yeah. Yep. So that's where you stand. Thursday Night Football tonight, Steelers at Vikings in that game. Dalvin Cook is going to be a game timer.
Can I just speak for everybody? Dalvin, just wait one more week. Like, we know what we're going to get with Madison. He's a very good fantasy player. Some people are trying to get into the playoffs right now. This is a big week. Don't go in there with your shoulder, and then you get it hit. Nope, not good, and now you're out. What are you supposed to do? Just sit this one out.
I like that your first worry is fantasy.
Get healthy and come back next
week.
Then
come back, yeah.
Don't
do you
rush
have Madison?
This. Yes, of course. If you draft Dalvin Cook, you got to have Madison. It's part of the handcuff situation. It's a must handcuff.
Yeah, yeah. Thielen will not be playing in this game.
No.
It sounds like Dalvin Cook's going to be a game timer. He's going to give it a go.
No.
Yeah, that's not great.
No.
Yeah, not great.
No thanks.
Yeah.
Madison plays by himself. He's a lock. 19, 20 points. Lock.
Yeah.
Cook plays by himself. He also is. But Muddy Cook?
Who knows? Yeah, you don't want that. You don't want that James Robinson situation from last weekend where you got 3 carries and then he's down and he doesn't play again until the end of the game.
By the way, see Trevor Lawrence?
I did. Yeah, I would say. And by the way, the comment that Urban made yesterday or 2 days ago about that's up to the running back coach. That is, I've been around Urban since 2007. No, even before that, 2005 in Florida.
Me too.
He would never have done that at Florida or Ohio State. Said that a decision to play somebody's up to the running back. That's nonsense.
That is
absolutely nonsense. And if he's coaching that way down there, then this thing is destined to fail even bigger than it already has. So that was just crazy. Like he micromanages everything. So the notion that he would be like, oh, that's up to the running back coach who gets to play running back, nonsense.
Do you imagine that as a result of this comment, and then is that Lawrence being subordinate? Is Lawrence saying, listen, dude, I know talent. He needs to be out here and not your guy from Ohio State? Like, is he talking to Urban Meyer? Is he talking to the running back coach? Who's he talking to?
I think he's trying to ingratiate himself with the veterans on the team.
And he's right. James Robinson
of course,
is
he
also
should be. Yeah,
one of their best players.
Yeah. No, he should be. That's absolutely the way that it will go. Yeah, this is an interesting Thursday one because you wonder what Minnesota's playing for. That was a brutal loss for them to Detroit. Pittsburgh's playing for everything. Like, it feels like they get every break. Do you aware that TJ Watt has 16.5 sacks?
Yeah, he had 3.5 last week.
Well, 16.5
he's
sacks.
leading the league.
Yeah, and he's missed 2 games.
And he has made the plays that have mattered directly to 2 of their wins. He made the sack strip fumble in overtime against Seattle that won them that football game.
Yep.
And then he makes this play that causes the errant throw from Lamar Jackson at the end of this game, not to mention the 3.5 sacks. They had 7 as a team, by the way.
Yeah. I saw some stuff where him being considered as like the MVP of the league situation because there's odds on him. He's like a top 5 odds guy on him getting a lot of momentum.
Are they 0-2 in the games he missed?
That I don't know.
Because if you could say we're 6-3-1 with TJ Watt and
0-2 without him,
that's my guy, Brandon Lynch, DB coach.
I couldn't turn. I can go this way.
You needed to spin like I was spinning in there earlier.
You did have a zest for left. What a Honeycrisp. Only a Honeycrisp could put that smile on your face.
Well, there's so many things, so many factors that went into
that
I
know it.
That led to that.
There were a lot of layers.
Boy, a real treat.
It's a real delight on the tongue. Buying or selling home with Howard Hanna Real Estate Services, always a winning strategy. If you plan to move this season, they're going to have you covered because at Howard Hanna, every game is game day. Visit howardhanna.com/GoBrowns today. Can I also say this before we go to break?
Yeah.
This is incredible audio in my ear.
It's
pristine
crystal
audio in my ear. There's
Elite.
a competent man that made this happen. Young Rip Jr. in there made it happen.
Drew Davidson, everybody.
Yep. Get that kid a brand.
That's right.
He's an
Bites by
employee
Drew.
for life. There's no question. Bites by Drew. Yeah, absolutely. All right. We'll hear from some coordinators. You'll hear from Joe Woods on the program today. In addition to that, Jeremiah Wusu-Koromo goes one-on-one with Dr. Z, Alex Van Pelt as well. We're off and running. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Gambling without setting limits on how much you're going to wager, how long you're going to play is like a football team going into a game without a game plan. Probably going to end up in a loss. So always set limits before you bet. Get more tips like this at KeepItFunOhio.com. By the way, can I say how excited you started Yellowstone last night from season 1, episode 1.
That's
we had
right.
a fun little back and forth on the text where you had a little Uncle Beau Montana fact checker that I was able to help you along
That's
with.
right.
So you're involved and you're in.
I'm so in. It was great, and I'm very excited. And yeah, it makes me really want to return home to the Ponderosa. I think it's depicted in such a stunning and beautiful way that it was, yeah, very good, very good. I'm in already, hooked. And you had said at the beginning we didn't know what it is. I think it's off to a rousing start.
It'd been so long since I'd seen it.
Yep.
That I honestly had forgotten how it started and what drama was going on at that point. I did have an interesting conversation with your dad about it, and he left with the conversation. And I know that may seem odd for you and me and your dad to have conversations about things, but of course,
we're like
I talk to him all the time.
Yeah, we're friends.
And
Not Pedro.
and he said that
Marlboro Man.
while he liked some of the originality and the way that they authentically portrayed some of it, he did have a lasting sentiment, which was tell people to stop watching because I don't want any more people coming here.
Right.
Was his
keep them out
sentiment.
Listen, they hit in the very first episode how much they do not like transplants. Yeah. That is like hit.
Your dad calls them invaders.
Invaders, sure.
Yeah, is not a fan. All right, this is from Pro Football Talk with this. Gibbe says, following up on our coaching hot or not segment yesterday, could a new rule in the NFL spark a late season rash of coach firings? So I'm looking at this. Here's the key to the rule. The interviews can be conducted only if the team's coach has been fired or informed he won't be back for the season. So permission must be given for the current employer of the candidate to interview for such vacancies. The interview can happen virtually. It raises the stakes for teams thinking about firing coaches, waiting until the season ends to put the team at a disadvantage. Since other teams will have started the process, it could potentially become a giant domino, one team going first, others following in order to get a chance to interview a hot candidate before someone else falls in love with him, and vice versa.
Huh.
There you go.
I'm of the belief in the National Football League. This is just me.
Yeah.
And maybe it's and it could be silly, and I bet coaches would tell me, no, you can't do it that way. You're wrong. I just think everything, once the Super Bowl ends, then it's all fair game. Then you can start doing whatever you want. The idea that coaches interview during the playoffs and all of that stuff, I don't like that. I feel like you've worked so hard to get to that spot that you should be focused in that week, everything that you've got on winning that game, winning that AFC championship, NFC championship.
I see no reason, and I feel the same way about it in college. I see no reason to not have a moratorium on coaching, hiring, and interviews until the NFL season is over.
Right.
You don't gain that much of an advantage by having a it's not that big of a deal. And by the way, if there were an advantage, that levels the playing field. Fine, fire your coach. You can't interview somebody who's currently coaching in the league, and I'm talking about whether they're involved in the playoffs or not until after the Super Bowl. All hires have to take place after the Super Bowl. What would be the harm in that?
Right.
There's no harm. That way it's a level playing field. Then you don't have this tampering. You don't have these sideshows. I think that's part of the reason that Eric Bieniemy hasn't had a job, because they've been in these long runs and he hasn't been able to interview. Everybody who's been around him says he's a great interview.
Yep.
But by the time he's available to be able to be interviewed, it's clear into it, and he's coaching his team. So what would be the harm in just waiting until the season is over for everybody and say, now you can go hire people?
Now, right. Easy. Monday after the Super Bowl, hiring, let's go.
Open the floodgates.
Keeps the news going, by the way. And it's you don't have to recruit. It's the NFL.
There's no right. You're not getting a big of an advantage.
Free agency is not until the middle of March.
Right.
You still would have your coach in place for the combine.
Yeah.
And
a month.
All of that.
A month and a half before free agency. You'd have several weeks before the combine. And honestly, like from a coaching standpoint, that first combine, and we saw this even with when AB and Coach were hired. Like a lot of the previous work had already been done by that staff. A lot of those guys hung around and we're still here and still involved. And I remember talking to Zoe about all of those things and like the work, the hay's in the barn on that class,
Yes.
So like you're not going to reinvent the wheel on your scouting department in 2 months, whether it's 2 months or it's 4 weeks, it's the same. So yeah, I think it's a simple way to streamline the process to make it a level playing field for everybody. And everybody can kind of go at it at the same time. It's a much bigger issue in college where we've seen even far more than the NFL, quite frankly, where we've seen people have to be hired in the course of like 2 days for fear of missing out on the early signing day in December, which is December 15th is the early signing day, which is just nonsense. And it forces you to hire, fire,
that should
and
be
do
after
things
the national
overnight.
Championship game.
Of course it should be. National signing day should be where it used to be, which is in February. And let everything play out, let everybody make their hires, coaches change places, and then you commit to what you know you're going to commit to, as opposed to, trying to this firestorm of recruiting the last 2 weeks to try to get these classes in. It's nonsensical. But it's even less important in the NFL. So that there's just no reason not to do this. I am curious on this front. I am curious if the NFL – now, we don't know what NFL coaches make because they're not public universities, so it's not necessarily out there. We know they make good money, but we don't know exactly what it is. You're never going to see – I don't know if you saw this or not, but Jimbo Fisher, who's the coach at Texas A&M, was reportedly offered $135 million to coach LSU in November and turned it down to stay at Texas A&M, where he got a new $100 million contract after this was reportedly offered. But that's what they were trying to do to allure him to LSU. They ended up getting Brian Kelly for around $95 million over 10 years. We see the head coach at Miami get an $80 million contract. Lincoln Riley's well over $100. Do you see his total package? Well over $100 million. They bought both of his Oklahoma area homes for, I think it was $100,000 over asking, market, $100,000 over asking, $6 million home that they bought for him in Southern California, full use of a private jet 24/7. Do you ever think you'll get to a point, and I think we know the answer to this, but is there anybody in the NFL that would be worth all of that?
I mean, Belichick, sure, right?
And I think he's probably getting close. I mean, there's reports that he's upwards of $20 million on salary for him, but he is the head coach, the GM, all of
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you could see that, but I don't think it would ever approach what college be for two reasons. One, the right coach allows you to stack the deck and be a perennial championship contender.
Yes, the coach is responsible for the roster entirely. Yeah,
right. And so it's not like that in the NFL. You don't have the choice. You can't just in college.
Maybe
football,
the better question is: would the money in the college game entice pro coaches to go that way?
I don't know if they would want that. I don't know if they want that life. I don't want your life. I don't know if they want.
It's a different life.
It's a different life.
It's a very different life.
Because
much more
you have to
life.
hustle. Because, for example, the first round, which we'll call 5 stars, and I'm not so up on college that I would know how many 5-star recruits there are every year. I imagine there has to be some type of a cap on
usually
it.
Usually between 25 and 30.
Okay, so a first round of an NFL draft. In college, it is possible to get all of them. Probably not all of them, but
Texas A&M, for example, Jimbo Fisher I just mentioned, this year is going to have 4 of the top 10 players in the country.
Which you cannot have in the NFL without trades. And now the Jets might get close to the Eagles or somebody like that.
But they might.
But that's the difference. And I would say 90% of your job in college is probably recruiting.
Yeah.
Because if you stack the deck, you're just going to win more often than not. The other 10% is when we play the few other teams that are of equal talent to us. Now we've got to go put our coaching hats on and actually coach these kids up. And, I would say even more important probably to colleges than in-game coaching. Now, look, you've got to win, is coaches who are great developers for the pros, because selling kids to come to your program is part of them. Look at what you come here as a 5-star receiver. Brian Hartline gets his hands on you, and now you're a first-round pick. Or going to Alabama, where their receiver coaches, I don't even know, but that guy's worth a lot of money in my mind to that program because of what they're doing.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. I mean, that's what, when you think about, that's what Urban changed at Ohio State, was he made it NFLU. He made it, come here, we'll make you a pro.
Yep.
And the only position he wasn't doing that at is quarterback, and now they're doing that, where they're going to have they'll have 3 straight Heisman finalists at quarterback, and C.J. Stroud will probably be a first-round pick as well. Now, one of them's got to hit in the pros, but you get the point. That's the job. Yeah, I do too. I just wish he wasn't in Chicago.
Can I say this, which is wild? So I was at the gym working out early this morning, and there was a Matt Nagy discussion going on.
Sure.
This would be, assuming that they finish with a losing record, the first time he's ever had a losing record there.
No, and he's been in the playoffs twice.
And it's like, throw this guy out.
He was booed at his kid's football game.
They were chanting "Fire Nagy" at a Bulls game.
Yeah. Well, but he was there. His kid was playing youth football.
Oh, yeah.
And they were chanting "Fire Nagy" at a youth football game.
That's disgusting.
And it's like, well, what would you have him have done better? Now, to be fair, we're not doing Bears daily. I'm not watching every Bears game, so I don't know. Is he grossly mismanaging games, or are they just pissed off because he didn't play Fields right away? I wonder what the genesis for all of the anger towards him is.
32-28 career record in the regular season, 32-30 overall, 0-2 in the playoffs. I just think people feel like he's not running a good offense. It was kind of like when Mark Trestman went there and he was supposed to be this offensive guy, and you're like, this offense sucks.
Yeah, is it personnel too, though? Like, what is, he had
it was pace.
They had Mitch Trubisky.
But he won the Executive of the Year that year.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's a strange one for sure because he has won there, and it's not like he's they're not the Steelers or the Patriots where they win 12 games every year. Like that's not what they're entitled to in Chicago.
No.
So yeah, I don't know what the vitriol from him stems from. I think it's a valid question.
It's significant.
Quite. Yeah. The Kevin Stefanski Show hits the road this week. Comes to you from 3 Spot in North Royalton. Love this spot. Presented by Bud Light. Join Z and Gerard tonight from 7 to 8 for giveaways, drink specials. Browns legend Brian Brennan. That's a real treat. That's tonight at 7. The Kevin Stefanski Show live from the 3 Spot presented by Bud Light. Defensive coordinator Joe Woods up next. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.
on 850.
Oh, this is exciting. Beau here for my friends at Indy East 4th. Excited to be part of the great story of East 4th Street. Soft opening later this month. Bring a music-themed atmosphere with Southern comfort cuisine. That is a winner for everybody. Rooftop patio bar, East 4th Street. It's all coming. Offering unique menu items paired with barrel-aged cocktails like tequila old fashioned. That sounds interesting. Brought to you by the owners of Char Whiskey Bar and Grill and Avo Modern Mexican. A gift card from Indy makes you the perfect holiday gift giver. And for that music and food lover in your life, now through the holidays, any gift card over $50 purchased will receive an extra 10% added directly on the card. I encourage you to learn more at Indy East 4th on social. They crush it. They'll crush this one, too.
Oh,
they do.
yeah.
All of it. So you have that to look forward to, which is nice. It's going to be fun down there. All right, here is Joe Woods, our defensive coordinator, at the podium.
You guys are down 11 minutes. The way you envision your dime and JOK working?
Yes. I think that's one of the strengths of our defense. I just think we can run at all three levels of our defense in terms of rushing the passer, covering, things of that nature. And I think it showed itself a little bit in that game. And the production was good. Wish we would have made a couple more plays, but that's what I feel like we're capable of doing.
What do you expect different from Baltimore today? Can you kind of anticipate what to expect?
No, not. I mean, Coach Rome is, to me, is a great offensive coordinator. Just very creative. There's a lot of plays, a lot of different pass plays, a lot of different run plays. This game could play out totally different based on what they choose to run.
Hey, Joe, what do you do now with Anthony probably not going to be available?
We have good depth at the position. You know, with Malcolm, Elijah Lee, we're still seeing where Jacob's at. So there's some possibilities there, but I just feel comfortable with the guys we'll have available.
And speaking of Jacob, like, how's he looked, and is there still a hope that he might be able to play some snaps on Sunday?
Yeah, we're going to evaluate that, you know, the next couple of days. But as far as running around, he looks healthy. You know, he looks like he's capable. Just got to keep getting him in practice and, you know, getting that contact, see how he turns out, see how it turns out.
Do you have a good level of comfort, you know, knowing that when Walker was out early in the season for those 3 games, Malcolm Smith came in and played well for you?
Yeah, I have no problems. And then Malcolm's, you know, a veteran. He's played a long time in this league, in this system for us, you know, on and off based on injuries. So, again, I'm very comfortable regardless what the situation is.
Baltimore threw to their backs more against Pittsburgh than they had all year. Do you think that's more of that, or was that just...
Yeah, you don't know. I mean, it's probably based on what they were doing, this coverage-wise, you know, looking at it. But their backs are a big part of it. Just depends on where they want to go with the ball.
Joe, when you look at, obviously we know the season Denzel's having, Greg Newsome played really well a couple Sunday nights ago. When you look at those two together and like the potential of that pairing, just what do you think?
I think we're talented at, you know, just with Greedy as well. I mean, Troy, you know, he had his ups and downs, but when he plays well, he's really effective in terms of being a good cover guy. I feel comfortable with a couple different combinations out there, and that's, for me, defensively, it gives you flexibility in terms of creating matchups and where you want to play guys.
And I know a couple, I think it was against Detroit. I think it was when Troy was out.
Yeah.
Greg played inside a little.
Yeah.
I know you guys have been cross-training him
Yes.
on that, but for him to have that versatility, how does that help you?
That's big. That's big. I would prefer it that way with all the guys, and there's certain guys that you like playing inside more than other guys based on their skill set. But we tried to train Greg that whole way from the off-season on, and now he's getting involved, and he's doing a pretty good job for us.
Joe, the touchdown to Mark Andrews, what happened?
Bust. You know, unfortunately, I think there was a lot of good things we did in that game, but there was a few plays that, you know, we were capable of making, and we just didn't execute. But those guys are a good team. They're explosive, and if you're just off a little bit, that's what can happen to you.
Hey, on that play, Joe, the video shows Clowney was so frustrated he just slams his helmet on the ground, and Miles is getting all chummy with Lamar. What did you think about it?
Nothing really. I mean, this thing, guys, it was a hard-fought game, very competitive game, and it just the guys played hard. They gave it their all. We just came up a little bit short, and sometimes that comes off that way. But I don't think anything about that.
Joe, was that the disruptive Jadeveon that you want and need?
Yes.
Why
why was he able to be so active? Was he just fresh and good legs that night, or?
No, I just think it depends on the type of scheme you play. And I think he had more opportunities when you seen him come off the edge. There's a couple of things we did that freed him up. But against those guys, he showed his speed, he showed his length. He was chasing the quarterback. Didn't catch him all the time, but you could see the pressure he applied, and it was good to see.
Can you remember a game where three safeties had interceptions before?
Not off the top of my head, but I was glad to see it. You know, they just came right in a row, right towards the end of 2 minutes, and then early in the third quarter. But those guys have been doing a good job. They work well together. I think the ability to disguise and run multiple coverages really helped them, make those interceptions.
You obviously had a bunch of different guys covering Andrews during the course of the game. How many would you say different guys were assigned to him?
It's just based on call, and then based on how we call it, all three of those guys can cover them. So, and that's, again, gives you flexibility as a play caller, just trying to create the matchups that you want to create based on the calls.
Do you have a cornerback on him, too?
Yep. I don't want to give away all the secrets. Yeah, but yes.
But JOK was never.
Not that game. Yep, not that game.
So a couple questions from that Ravens game. When Ronnie gave up the deep ball to Andrews where they called the PI, but he made the catch, did you take him out after that?
No.
Okay. And then there were a couple substitution issues, right? You had to use a timeout a couple times. What was going on with that?
Yeah, that's on me. We have to be clean in terms of our operation. They changed their personnel. I tried to change our personnel, and it was kind of a little too late, and we ended up having 12 men on the field. That's something I addressed with the whole group, and I'll make sure that's cleaner going into this game.
For the offensive struggles, do you feel almost like the defense needs to step up and win the game?
No, and that's something I talked to the guys about. It's you can say, look at it offensively what they're doing, or if we're down guys. We should be able to play at the highest level regardless of the situation. So to me, it's not really what's happening around us. It's can we go out and execute the defense the way we want to do it and make the plays we're supposed to make.
So aside from the New England game, you've had a stretch defensively where you've held the opponent to 17 or less. Do you think it's where you wanted it to be at this point of the year?
Yeah, the up and downs that we had during the season, we look at things and try to figure out why they happened. I think guys are just worried about doing their job. And I think now they're playing better collectively. And I think from my standpoint as a play caller, trying to organize everything, game plan, our defensive coaching staff, I feel like we've grown and, we're putting together better plans for the defense. So I think all together, I think that's kind of the result of what's happening, and this guy's making plays.
Hey, Joe, I don't know if you had JOK specifically spying Lamar in the last game, but how much does his sideline-to-sideline speed allow you to contain him?
It helps a lot. You guys, and you saw the speed on the field, his ability to make plays in space. There are things we can do, but at the same time, we don't want to do too much. But we always try to keep a mix, especially when you're dealing with an athletic quarterback, to try to contain it.
Obviously, at the bye, you have a time to reflect. When you're looking at JOK, obviously he's had up and downs with injuries and stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think about where he's at in his development right now?
He's right on track. We put more on his plate, really, the last couple of games that he's played. And again, you don't try to do too much, because if you do too much and he's thinking, then he plays slower. So just being very cautious in terms of what we're asking him to do, the different packages we're putting him in. But I think he's progressing nicely, and I think that you guys saw that in the last game.
When you watch that game over, though, was there any time when you thought this is what he was sort of born to do? You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, anytime he steps on the field, that's what But it's just having a guy that can run. You feel good about him making plays in space. You feel good about blitzing him. You feel good about matching him up. He's kind of that hybrid guy that's like linebacker safety, and we'll continue to use him that way as the season goes on.
What was the key to Lamar not having any huge runs, right? I think he averaged, 4 yards a carry.
You give all the credit to the players, and, I feel like we're a fast defense, as I said earlier, at all three levels, and when you have that speed, you can, close in space. And I think they did a good job of executing the plan, trying to keep him in the pocket, and we did break loose on a couple runs, we were at least able to get him down before he got the big runs.
Joe, know, there aren't many quarterbacks who could play poorly for 3 quarters and then, like Lamar did against Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
bring him down at the end.
Yeah.
You put him in that top class, or where does he rank? The ability to just win a game no matter how badly it's been.
Yeah, he's just one of those guys. There's a few guys in the league like that, and I think just because of the dual threat, I mean, he has the ability to throw the ball. I mean, you can see him make the throws, you know, short, intermediate, deep. But if you cover the guys and then you don't contain him, then he can beat you with his feet. So he's a very dangerous guy to deal with, and you got to play those guys for 60 minutes.
How many of those are there in the league right now?
Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you, but I mean, you know all the obvious ones. You know, thinking the guys we played, Lamar, Patrick Mahomes, you know, guys like that. But I'm sure there's more. But those are 2 guys that stick out in my mind.
Brady or Rodgers?
Yeah. Well, I was just talking about the guys that are mobile. You know, they can beat you with the throws, but if you don't keep them in the pocket, they can beat you with their feet. But we played a couple guys like that. But obviously, Tom Brady, you know, no question.
I just mentioned the guy who could play badly, 3 interceptions, or and still win a game at the end.
Yeah, I'm sure there's several guys, and guys you all know, you know. So.
Hey, Joe, what's your progress report on Greg Newsom?
Getting better. I think he's confident, and I think he's played against some of the, you know, better receivers, you know, just based on the teams we played and held his own. And I think that gives him confidence when he sees, hey, I can make plays against these guys. So I think he's doing a good job, and as we mentioned earlier, the versatility, him playing outside and inside is just very valuable to us.
Back in 30.
He's kind of shown the most progress since you got him?
To me, you know, being the DB guy, it's just coverage. You know, the ability to go up there and play press and off-man coverage, just when we can lock somebody down. And there's times where you can see teams really trying to isolate him. You know, formation, the boundary, he's one-on-one. And he's been able to hold up. So I think he's progressed just in terms of his technique and ability to play one-on-one.
You're up. Offense a couple of weeks ago. He's had a full week. The loss of Anthony Walker certainly be one that will be felt.
Yep.
He was tremendous in that game, and you're not going to have as much time to prepare for that as you just probably found out about that this morning. But the plan remains. How does Baltimore adapt? Because I'm sure they're not happy with what they got offensively the last time we played. But also, you know, they had to prepare to play Pittsburgh last week, and then they get us, and we've had some time off to continue to adapt to things as well. So I do like – it does feel like our defense was built, and I think purposefully so, to beat teams like this one.
Yeah, and, you know, we're going to get a chance to talk with Kevin Stefanski tonight on the Kevin Stefanski Show, which will be his first, you know, comments since some of the news of today. But it had to be gratifying, right, to see the defense that you put together along with Andrew Berry over the course of the last 2 seasons to try to deal with this. I mean, the difference in the speed and length of our defense this year versus last year against the Ravens jumps off the screen, and it jumped off the field for me in person. So, of course, that's what you wanted to do, and that's what they have been able to do. And to see that, I think it was great. This is still a dangerous offense, although it's an offense that comes into the Browns, as I talked about yesterday, comes into the Browns slumping. I mean, this is a team that the beginning of the year was putting up 400 total yards a game. This was a team at the beginning of the year. Frankly, Lamar Jackson, going into our game, I remember saying this, was averaging 342 total yards of offense himself.
Himself.
Well, they haven't hit 342 yards of offense since the first week of November as a team. So, you know, again, I did these numbers yesterday, but I'll do it again. Here were their total yards to start the season: 406, 481, 387, 406, 523. By the way, they averaged over 6.5 yards a play in those 5 games. 327, 393, 500 against Minnesota in that game, 5.6 a play. And then against Miami, 304, 299 against Chicago. That was without Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
303 against us. So the lowest output they've done all year with Lamar Jackson as the quarterback, and the lowest yards per play, 3.3, was against us. And then 326 against Pittsburgh. So this is an offense that is averaging just about 305 yards of total offense, 310 yards of total offense per game over the last 4. They're averaging basically 4.3 yards per play. So this has not been a dynamic, explosive, elite offense of late. And so we have good tape on them. The Steelers were able to shut them down in a game. They did not have Joe Hayden at cornerback. But we've got to continue to do what we did. The Ravens are who they are.
Yep.
And they're going to continue to be who they are, which is a challenge. It's tough to deal with Lamar Jackson and the challenges he presents. but they don't have that home run hitter as a runner. Devontae Freeman's been fine, but, I mean, he's not J.K. Dobbins, and Latavius Murray certainly is not Gus Edwards. They are good throwing the football. When Hollywood Brown is dangerous, Mark Andrews is dangerous. Bateman has struggled of late with the return of Sammy Watkins, kind of cannibalizing his looks. But Sammy Watkins has made a lot of big plays for them, including the touchdown that almost got him to beat the Steelers. He caught that touchdown, just like he caught against Chicago, the play that set up their game winner. Their line is okay, but their line is starting to fracture a little bit. And you saw 7 sacks a week ago. They've given up, over the last 4 games, they've given up about 5 sacks a game.
Yeah.
And so you can get to Lamar, you can harass Lamar, and when you do that, you have a chance to get him to throw you the football. And the other thing I would say that our defense did so well in that first game was limit big plays. And you'd say, all right, well, they had the 2 to Andrews. And yes, they both happened on the same drive. The heave, when he broke out of the pocket and threw it up in there, and the one where he ran back 35 yards and then ends up throwing a touchdown to Lamar Jackson that Denzel said he wishes he would have back. Oh, boy.
Young Scarlett.
Look at Scarlett. He's got ink. The Heisman
gosh,
post.
Heisman.
Well, that was pretty good right there.
It really was, yeah.
So
no one from Clemson's winning the Heisman, Scarlett.
No.
Yeah.
No, sad. So they forced Lamar Jackson to be 3 of 10 for 65 yards with 1 touchdown. That was on the insane play that only he makes, and 3 interceptions of passes of more than 10 yards in the air. The Browns also held Lamar Jackson to a season-low 5.1 yards per attempt, despite averaging 10 air yards per attempt, which was his second highest figure of the year.
Yeah.
So it was a masterclass in what Joe Woods did. And again, this is a defense that has allowed 16 or fewer in 5 of the last 6 games. It's playing very good football.
Yeah, and our DNs are a problem for their line, especially Villanueva. I mean, it's a struggle.
Villanueva can't play anymore.
No, he can't, and you respect the hell out of him for his career and
sure.
for everything. But he's just past that point, and it's a really tough matchup. So I would imagine we would be around Lamar all day on Sunday. Rumpke Waste Recycling, family owned and operated. Whether you join them as a customer or as an employee, you're going to become part of the family. Visit rumpke.com to learn more on that front. Offensive side of the ball coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. EOX Vantage has that local presence in the global footprint. It's trusted by some of the world's biggest brands. Here's a testimonial from EOX Vantage client Ed Shield. He's the Vice President at Skyward Specialty Insurance. The tools we've designed with EOX Vantage are real business changers that open the door for us to all sorts of valuable opportunities and efficiencies. They've helped our team members stay on the same page while collaborating remotely, make it easy to communicate with customers, cut way down on manual data entry and the associated input errors, and cut hours off processes and response times. Operationally, it is a brand new ball game for us, and it can be for you too. I encourage you to learn more about EOX Vantage by visiting www.eoxvantage.com or call 216-298-1616.
All right, real quickly, some updates from the Browns who are taking the practice field as we speak. Jarvis Landry back at practice. Malik Jackson still on the side. Schwartz and Harrison Bryant out again. J.C. Treader not practicing, which is his typical Thursday day.
So that's good news.
It is good news.
On
Getting
that
Jarvis,
front.
getting Jarvis back out there. You want to see Malik Jackson out there on Friday, but all indications are that Malik Jackson will be going on Sunday.
All right, so that's very good news on that front. Offensively, this has been the focus of the bye week. Certainly, it's been the focus of conversation. How do we amp it up? How do we get the pass game going? Here's your offensive coordinator, Alex Van Pelt.
Alex,
you guys are down 8-20.
And for Kenny Pickett?
I would be all in favor of that. I thought he did a heck of a job this year. He had a great career and obviously a really great year. Happy for him and Pitt.
I know Kevin and some of the guys have talked about this reinvigoration after the bye week. I guess, do you see that from your guys so far?
Oh, yeah, you can definitely feel the energy. I think the guys, they needed that week to regroup, refresh, and then we really challenged them to recommit to the last 5 games at least of the season. So you can definitely see it in the practice. The guys are flying around. They're very attentive, and they're excited to get back to work.
Austin Hooper mentioned yesterday, just from his own perspective, he felt maybe those last couple of games, guys were starting to run on empty a little bit. Is that something that you saw? And just, I know you said you feel like guys are reinvigorated, but yeah. I guess the bye came at a pretty good time.
It does. I mean, obviously it's a long time to go without a bye week. It's tough. Teams have gone through it, obviously, and somebody had the bye, this week too. So it's part of the deal. We got the bye late, so guys were tired, and that's natural. But the week off, like I said, I think will help.
Alex Baker talked about having to have answers for the Ravens' pressure and when they just put a bunch of guys at the line of scrimmage like they did. So how do you find those answers, and how challenging is it when they do just load the box like that?
I mean, that's a definite issue that they present. They do a great job with it. I said last time before we played them, I think they're one of the best in the league at attacking your protections. They're going to present it whether they bring it or not, but you still have to be ready for it. It's all film study, a lot of walkthrough time, just kind of studying their tendencies and having answers if they do bring it, and then obviously having answers if they drop out. So we spend a lot of time in that area, and we feel confident about it.
Alex, prior to the Baltimore game, November 28th, Chubb had been in COVID, and Hunt had been out for 5 weeks. Looking back at that, were they affected by those layoffs?
That's tough to say. I would hope now they're ready to go. I'm sure it's different. I've not had it, so I wouldn't how to. I've never pulled my calf, or I haven't had COVID yet, but I assume they're healthy and ready, as fresh as they've been, since the start of the season.
Along those lines, how big a blow is it to have Njoku on the COVID list, and how do you feel about the plan to move on with him and Bryant?
Yeah, it's a common problem throughout the league. A lot of teams face it through injury, through COVID. It's challenging for the staff really to get a plan together, get your best guys on the field. David was doing a really nice job. Has done a nice job for us this season. So anytime you take a piece of that production out, you got to find a place and a way to to replace that production. But hopefully we get him back ASAP, and we find somebody to take up that production while he's gone.
Teams are stacking the box like they've done against you guys. How do you balance committing and sticking with it, and just kind of bashing your head against the wall and not getting it?
Yeah, there's a fine line. We still have 2 great runners, really 3. Feel really good about that group of guys. Seen many times where there's a free runner or a free guy in the hole, and Nick or Kareem will just make a miss or run him over. That's part of the deal when you load the box. The other part of it is we have to use our play action game and our run action game to get him back out of the box there and get back in the shell. So it's a combination of sticking with the run, trusting our guys that are going to break tackles, make guys miss even if he is unblocked. We believe in those guys.
There are only 4 teams in the league, the Giants, the Jaguars, and 2 others that have fewer touchdown passes than the Browns. Why do you think that is, that you have so few, 12? And are the receivers getting enough separation?
Separation's tough. We've played some good corners lately. Humphreys is exceptional. A lot of that has to do with, route techniques. We do practice it. We have to do a better job of scheming it as well, I think, as coaches, to present different looks and use those guys to get them open versus man. The touchdowns, we're running the ball when we get down in the red zone. We haven't been down there nearly enough as of late. I think that's our struggles in the field and converting on third down. So we've highlighted a lot of areas through our self-scout that we need to improve, things we do well to continue to do well, and just, really got to get more chances down there in the red zone. As far as the touchdown passes, those will come.
Obviously, you never want to lose Jack Conklin. At this point, where's your level of confidence in your plan right there?
Yeah, we'll have a great plan. I know whoever will be in there will be ready to go. Jack, obviously disappointed for him. I know how much he wanted to get back and help this team win down the stretch, so that's disappointing for him. But, he'll be back, healed up, and headed over next year. Whoever steps in over there, if Blake continues to play, he's got to do a great job. We expect the best effort of each guy that goes in, next man up mentality, and we're fortunate we still have 4 of our 5 starters.
James, who's the guy? Have you seen him improve since the one start he made?
Yeah, I've watched James for a long time, since he first got here. I know he's got a lot of instruction from Coach Callahan, Coach Peters, and if he plays Sunday at all, I know he'll be ready. He'll be coached up and ready to go for sure. He's improved. Can't help to improve when you get that type of coaching one-on-one for as long as he's had it now.
We haven't spoken to Landry since Odell was released. Do you think his morale has been affected?
No, I don't. I see the same juice now as I saw. Obviously, the week that it went down, it was a little different for him, I'm sure, but he's still the same pro that we saw. I've seen the last 2 years.
The knee, every week he's missed one day of practice. That hasn't gotten much better, does it?
You'd have to ask him. I'm not going to talk about injuries, but I know when he's ready to go on Sunday, he's ready to go, and we're glad to have him.
How does Baker look physically this week? Can you tell that he needed that rest just for how banged up he is?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, he came in practice Monday and Wednesday this week as an indication to me that he's feeling a lot better.
Richard wasn't able to be out in Baltimore. Coach had said part of that was because of special teams.
Right.
He's been a guy that when he gets targets, he makes plays. He's either converting third downs or he's scoring touchdowns.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, how do you get him on the field and he seems like a guy that can help you.
Yeah, definitely. He's been productive for us in his time. I think he and Baker have a good rapport. If all possible, we'd love to have him up and dressed. Obviously that's dictated by other things.
Yeah, with Schwartz still not back and without David, how do you go about creating the explosive plays that you guys talk about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kevin said that's one way to kind of combat them stacking a line of scrimmage. So how do you do without missing those guys?
You got to find different ways to do it. May not be through the vertical game. Could be run after catch. A lot of different ways to be explosive, not just going deep on each play. But we definitely need to find more ways. We had some explosive plays last time we played these guys, and we need more.
If Forrestall has to play, is there any comfort that he played at Alabama? It's kind of like a pro system.
Yeah, I've been impressed with him. He's done a really nice job. Obviously, haven't seen a lot of live action from him. He wasn't here for training camp, so that's just the thing we'll see as he gets in there. But again, next man up mentality for us.
Kevin talked about this a little bit the other day, but the idea of playing Kareem and Nick together at the same time. What are your thoughts on that? Is that doable in your guys' system, and could you see more of that just to get 2 playmakers on the field?
I mean, you can. Obviously, we could do anything in the system. It has the ability to do that. I think we feel really comfortable with using, again, those guys as the 1-2 punch and keeping both of those guys fresh throughout the game so we have strong runners in the fourth quarter.
Is there something else? Because we've asked you about that now.
Back in 30.
And it really doesn't happen very much at all. Is that the only reason to keep one fresh, or is there another negative to having both of them out there?
I don't really think there's many negatives. Again, I just think it's the way we played here in the last year and a half. And we feel good about having both of those guys splitting reps and being fresh through the course of the game, really, and the season, for that matter.
You're up.
All right, there's AVP at the podium, and all eyes obviously will be about this. It'll be about this matchup. It'll be how is the offense improved, what have we seen, and how do you get that pass game going. It is something that we will get into coming up next. In addition to that, which NFL coaches are best on fourth down, we will get to that as well. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. OBM, Ohio Business Machine, preferred copier provider of your Cleveland Browns. Leave all the X's and O's for your office. Call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. We didn't get into this in great detail yesterday, but our offense versus their defense. We saw it last time. What they do well is stop the run. What they struggle with is stop the pass. We'll be without, 3/4 of our tight end room, so that's going to be a contributing factor in that. But there are going to be plays to be made down the field in the pass game. We just have to make them, and everybody knows that. That's something you've been prepared for. And you've known since really Monday that you're not going to have the Chief in this game just because of the timetable on COVID testing. It just hasn't worked out any way other than you miss a game. So how does Kevin Stefanski unlock this pass game against this Ravens defense?
Yeah, and you make a great point. You look at just the last 2 weeks alone. In fact, 4 straight weeks, the Ravens have not given up 100 yards rushing in a game. The last 2 weeks alone against us and against the Pittsburgh Steelers with Najee Harris, who they do try to run the football, they've allowed 125 yards rushing total on 42 carries. So you do the math there, that's below 3 a pop, just below 3 a pop, 2.9 per carry. So they have been an excellent run defense, but you can throw the football on this team. They're the 31st ranked passing defense in the National Football League. They give up big plays. So far, they've allowed 80 pass plays of more than 15 yards, which is the third most in the National Football League. And that is with, you have to remember, with Marlon Humphrey there. He is now gone for the year. And so I think for the Browns in this one, it is imperative that you take advantage of this secondary. And so we've talked a little bit about what the cornerback room is going to look like for this Baltimore Ravens team. And so from at a cornerback standpoint, here's who they're going to have. Anthony Averett has played the most this season. He's been decent, not great. You've got Chris Westry, who has only played 3 games, 105 snaps, and has been dreadful. And you've got Jimmy Smith, the former first-rounder, who is certainly well past his prime, and they like him sometimes more at safety, but he's the one who came in when Humphrey got hurt last week, and he has played well this year. Their safeties, though, they don't have Deshaun Elliott anymore. They've got 2 guys that are basically strong safeties, and now one of them, Chuck Clark, has to play some free safety, Brandon Stevens as well. Those 2 safeties, when targeted this year, both giving up about 15 yards a catch, both giving up quarterback ratings of 138 or higher. And so you need to create in this game scenarios in which you are able to get tight ends, so in this case it would be Austin Hooper, running backs, so Kareem Hunt maybe perhaps out of the backfield, or even to figure out a way to get your receivers. And this is where Chief got Brandon Stevens, number 21, the strong safety, in that one-on-one situation for that touchdown. We need to try to find ways to isolate those guys in coverage, and if we can, we've got an opportunity, I think, to really take advantage of it. Now, you've got to test these corners. This is a team that is going to play predominantly man 1 and cover 3. Now, what that allows them to do is also to have 8 guys, sometimes even 9 down in the box. If you have receivers, for example, let's say you have both of your receivers to the right.
Yep.
They're able to bring the corner on that offside down into the box to give them a 9th box defender, and they'd have the single high guy, and they'd have a corner out on this side. They might kick the linebacker out, but he's still going to be in the box area. So you have got to take advantage. In cover 3 and man 1, the principles on the outside, especially if you're running a vertical, are basically the same. That cornerback is basically in man-to-man coverage with you. Our guys have got to be able to win. Donovan Peoples-Jones, Jarvis Landry, Hollywood Higgins, who I would expect to play this week. They've got to win those matchups. You've got to throw the football against this team. Yes, I am not about abandoning the run, but we have got to do a better job on the ground, and frankly, this is a very difficult team to run against. This is not the Bills. The Bills are not a great run defense, and I know people keep going back to that game. Right. They knew they were running. They're not a great run defense.
Well, beyond that, they play predominantly nickel and have all year. They don't have a roster that's actually built for – and don't think Belichick didn't know that. They don't have a roster that's built to play that way.
No, and their linebacker, their best linebacker, Matt Milano, is regarded as a coverage linebacker, not a run-stopping thumper.
Right.
And
that gets lost, I think.
It is difficult to run on this team. That doesn't mean that you abandon it, and we've got to be more efficient. You go back to the win that we had in 2019 there in Week 4. Chubb ran for 160, but because he broke some chunk runs. So that's going to be the key, I think, for the ground game. I'm not expecting us to all of a sudden run out there and hit 4 yards, 5 yards, 5 yards consistently. What I'm hoping is we have a couple 2s, a 3, and then we hit a 30 or we hit a 60. And that's how you can soften them up. And the other way is to just be effective in the passing game. I came across an interesting factoid this week that the Ravens did something very interesting against us, in fact, very unique for them. They matched, and Joel Bitonio talked about this earlier today, they matched our 11 personnel, 3 receivers, with their base defense multiple times in that game against us. There were over 1,000 plays, the last 1,000 plays before that game when the Ravens faced 11 personnel, they ran their base defense against it exactly 1 time.
So just to clarify for the people what you're saying. So when we are in 3 receiver against Baltimore last time, they did not bring in an extra corner.
They did at times, but they also kept their 3 linebackers in, 4 down linemen, or 7 up front, the way that they do.
Yes.
So they would do 3 down linemen, 4 linebackers, and a 3-4.
Right.
So they would keep that base and only have 4 defensive backs now for our 3 wide receivers and typically a tight end. So 11 personnel. So that's 3 receivers. The 1 and 1 stand for 1 running back, 1 tight end. But they stayed in base in that because we do run out of our 11 personnel. And they had not done that. They'd done it once in over 1,000 snaps. They did it 5 times against us.
Yeah.
And we don't play a ton of 11 because, frankly, we have not been a great 11 team. We're going to have to be this week because the injuries to David Njoku and the injury to Harrison Bryant, or the COVID for David Njoku, the injury to Harrison Bryant means, Miller Forrestall is now your second tight end. And while he's been here all year and they feel confident about him, I'm guessing he's going to be most often trusted to block.
Sure.
And so you could see us try to get into those 13 runs and some of that grouping with, say, two running backs, 2 tight ends, so 22 personnel, and the 1 wide receiver, where you'd have Janovich at fullback. But he, while a decent receiver out of the backfield, same with Johnny Stanton, they're not Chief or Harrison Bryant. And so we are going to, in this game, have to play somewhat out of our comfort zone. And now the thing that is good about it, if there's anything good about it, it's that us being able to take advantage of this team in particular out of 11 personnel, the time is now.
Yeah.
You're without your top 2 corners. You're without your free safeties. You're basically playing 2 strong safeties. You've got an aged corner. You have one guy who does not have much experience and hasn't been good. Then you have Averett, who's played decently this year. Not great, but he was a guy that you would have wanted to go after. So we're going to have to take some shots, and we're going to have to win. I mean, that's what this game is about. It's about our receivers winning, and it's about our line giving Baker enough time for him to identify, deliver the football on time and accurately. And if we do that, we should have the opportunity to hit chunk plays, and we should have the opportunity to really possess the football and be able to throw it, because we need to do that. And it needs to start here, because you're not going to go the rest of the season and be able to beat, and as good as our ground game is, and it is elite, but we're not going to be able to go 4-1 over 5 games without being able to successfully throw the football.
No.
And if we can, and do what we did last year as a passing offense, we certainly can do that. We can do it. We can accomplish anything we want to.
Yeah, and the weather, by the way, for Sunday looks perfect. It's looking 48, sunny. Like there shouldn't be any sort of rain, wind situation. You ought to be able to take advantage of that. It should be a perfect track at First Energy for all of the things that you want to do. ESPN NFL Nation ranking the NFL coaches on 4th down calls. So they have this algorithm, all these sorts of things. I won't bore you with that, but what I will tell you is there's a lot of straight lines in terms of who you think would be good on 4th down. For example, the best coach on 4th down in the league is Cliff Kingsbury. Well, yeah, they've got Kyler.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good equalizer on 4th down. It's the same reason that even when you're even as you're watching the Ravens play the Steelers last week, go for it every time on 4th down with Lamar, because he adds something else. So the coaches that are best on 4th down, Kingsbury's number 1, Matt LaFleur number 2. Again, well, yeah. Number 3, John Harbaugh. Yeah.
Great analytics department.
Number 4, Robert Saleh. Bit of a surprise there. Did not see that coming. Andy Reid is 5, of course. Nick Sirianni is 6.
Good analytics
Jalen Hurts,
department.
Good analytics. Also have a quarterback who can run. David Culley is 7.
Yep.
So some of these are outliers. Our guy is 8. Kevin Stefanski is 8th in the league on 4th down. Matt Rule is 9, and then Mike Zimmer is 10.
By the way, our guy would be 2nd or near the very top, because if you look at this from a decision standpoint, he ranks 2nd and 6th. So what that means is win probability sacrifice on 4th down errors, only 13.1%. That ranks him 2nd in the NFL. Non-obvious 4th down error rate, 21%. That's 6th. So in terms of decision making, great.
The decision to go, yes.
Difference in expected versus actual 4th down conversions, were 30th. Because, again, we have not been a money team on whether it's 3rd down, 4th down. So you look at where that puts us at the bottom, so it lowers him. For example, Culley's ahead of him, but he ranks 9th and 18th in the 2 metrics that Stefanski ranks 2nd and 6th. They are 10th, though, in conversion area. Sirianni is actually 1st and 3rd, but 31st in success. Andy Reid is 5th and 5th, so he's been good in terms of decisions, and they've converted. Saleh's 6th and 1st in the conversion decisions, 12th in execution. Harbaugh is top 10 in everything, which is why they've been there. 3rd and 7th in the decisions, 8th in execution. LaFleur, 4th and 5th in decisions, 5th in execution. And Kingsbury, 7th and 2nd. So not even from the 2 decision-making categories as good as our guy, but they're 1st in actual success rate. So if we had Stefanski could easily be 1st on this list.
If he was in the top 15
if we were
in
good
success
at
rate,
success rate,
he would be at the top of it. I will say one thing that is really refreshing, and this is one of the incredible benefits of how football in general, college, pro, have embraced analytics, is the notion of, hey, maybe we ought to go for it more. That you don't have to punt as much on 4th and short, especially around midfield. You see more and more teams doing this on a regular basis. buddy, when you and I were young, and really up until the last 5 years or so, fourth and anything, you're punting.
Punt.
You'd see him run them out. 4th and 1, run them out.
Punt.
Like, it was so rare. And I do think at times even the analysts are late to the party on this, because you still hear them so shocked that you're punting it on fourth, or that you're going for it on 4th down, because it's not the way they were brought up. But the league has evolved, and I think you ought to catch up on it.
I'll give you a very painful example for us. The Chargers going for it on 4th and 2, down 14 on their own 24 early in the third quarter against us is an example of that. And the thinking, somebody wrote an article about that play call and talked to Staley about it. And he said, based on our information that we had, that was an automatic go, because the thought was at that point, punting, and if they go down and score, and we had shown no ability to stop the Browns at this point, now we're down 3 scores. And it becomes a very daunting process. Like, our win probability is very low under that scenario anyway. Right. So what their calculation was, if we go for it and fail versus punting, the difference, it's bleak anyway at this point, right? So the difference between, let's call it, we have an 8% chance to win the game and a 5% chance to win the game if we fail. It's still it's a small difference. But if we go for it and succeed, the benefit in our ability to likely win this game is significantly higher than the outcome loss. So what they talked about is a lot of people take comfort in delaying the bad news.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Let's delay.
Push it down
when
the road.
He's saying, no, let's go for it. And if we don't get it and we're going to lose the game anyway, fine. But to win this game, we do need to go for it and get this. And they ended up converting 2 4th downs on that drive.
They did, yeah.
And scoring that touchdown, which in some ways changed, I think, the momentum of the game. Because too, as a Browns team, you get that stop right there. It's good night, Irene. You're already in field goal range. It's a minimum. You're up 17 here, but we didn't. And so that's the thought process. I think people look at these things as binary, and in many ways they are. But what's to say that punting, they still could have easily lost that game. And so you're going through simulations and calculations and your own algorithms to figure out what's our chance of winning this game right now. If winning it's only 10% right now, going forward on 4th down at our own 24, missing that drops that down to 5%, 3%, whatever. But if it bumps it from the 8, 10 to 20, that's worth it. That calculate the risk, the reward is worth the risk.
I like the way you phrase that. Push the bad news down the road.
That was one thing they talked about.
That's a smart way of putting it, because that's the way that people played football. And that's actually what happened in the SEC championship game, Georgia against Alabama. They punted down multiple scores in the 4th quarter. Now, the difference is college football is a game of perception. So they punted, because if they didn't go for it and Alabama poured it on again, they could be down 3 touchdowns at that point, and then potentially they would look like not a legitimate college football national championship team. So they punted to keep it closer.
Yeah.
He wasn't trying to win. He was trying to keep the margin low, and that is the difference. In the NFL, what Staley's saying is, this is our only chance. What difference does it make if we lose by 14 or 28?
None.
It's the same. They're all losses.
Exactly.
The only way we have to win is to do this, and it's something for football fans who for 100 years have been told the other way, punt everything, mitigate risk, blah, blah, blah. You're also not winning.
And it also started with like the high school coach in California that went for it on every 4th down.
There's definitely a high school coach in Arkansas who never punts and never kicks, and ever does not punt, does not kick ever. So if he kicks off, it's an onside kick. He does not punt and he does not kick. Goes for it on every 4th down. And I think he elevated to college, to the D3 level, but I think he was actually just fired in maybe just this year.
Okay.
But he did it in high school, won state championships and stuff. But so I don't know. There could be one in California too.
Sure.
The one I'm saying is, I remember because it was that was the Real Sports one. Was there a high school coach in Arkansas?
Gotcha.
Where that happened. But yeah, it does make sense to do it. It does make sense to talk to Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah when you have the opportunity. We do, and you'll hear it coming up next. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. You know, your mattress might be to blame for your nights when you're tossing and turning, or if your neck hurts like mine does, which is why I went to Northeast Factory Direct. And if you've gone mattress shopping at traditional furniture stores, you've seen the outrageous prices. Well, at Northeast Factory Direct, you get the same quality mattress and a fraction of the cost. Anything mattress related, they're going to have you covered. Pillow top, memory foam, gel foam, all the sizes. The best part is they've got a ton of mattresses in stock, and they're ready to deliver. You get them right away. They also have 0% financing available. I encourage you to go see for yourself like I did. Check them out, West 140th Street in Cleveland, Lakeland Boulevard in Euclid, or Freeway Drive in Macedonia, or shop them online anytime at northeastfactorydirect.com. And now here is Z one-on-one with JOK.
You guys are down 13 minutes.
Bye week for you. Your first, obviously, in the NFL.
Yeah, man. First of all, all praise to the Almighty for allowing me to have this opportunity to be on the show and, allowing me to get back from that bye week safe. But nevertheless, spent some time in LA. Excuse me, not LA, but ATL. I had LA on my mind, but spent some time in ATL. Good stuff, though, man. Got to do some rehab, got to relax a little bit and, kick it with some of the brothers. So good stuff.
How did the ATL treat you? I went to college down there. It's a fine city.
Okay. Yeah. I actually love it, man. I would move down there, if I could. But,
it's a good place. Yeah. Fun city, good weather. It is a good place. All right. So that's good. How are you feeling physically? I know you kind of you've been playing through that ankle. Did that week off kind of help you get closer or as close as anybody can be this time of year to 100%?
Yeah. I got a lot of time to focus on the parts of my body that were kind of, wearing down, I guess, as a rookie. But no, I definitely feel ready to go. I definitely feel back to near 100, the vets always have a saying, you're never going to ever be 100% again once you enter the NFL. But I definitely feel good and I'm ready to get after it. So.
All right, let's go back a couple of weeks ago. You go take on the Baltimore Ravens, and, a lot of people look at, some of the moves that have been made on this defense, right? The drafting of Grant Delpit, the bringing of John Johnson, trading for Ronnie to get kind of those safeties, and then the drafting of you, obviously. We're for, in large part, Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, these fast offenses that can, move the ball and make you defend not only vertically, but the whole width of the field horizontally as well. You go out there, you have a career high 12 tackles, you got a tackle for a loss, you have half of a sack, you're flying all over the field. What was that game like for you, knowing in somewhere in the back of your mind, one of the main reasons that they love me is I'm a great player, but that I can help against this team that we need to beat to become the AFC North champions?
Yeah, no, I mean, first and foremost, I want to give praise to the teammates as well, setting up positions that, everybody can fulfill their job and, everybody can flourish. A lot of people had great games. So, no, want to definitely give thanks to them. But nevertheless, it felt good to just be out there, to be free kind of. And, as time progresses, and I'm more familiar, the entire defense, as we were more familiar with the scheme, it becomes more free, it becomes more fast, it becomes more that we can, adapt into our natural talents. It's first and foremost the scheme, first and foremost the fundamentals of the defense. And once we have those down pat, I think we do something special.
What was it like chasing Lamar down? Because I'm sure you had heard this guy's really fast, but when you actually play, you get to feel it, right? And you were right there with him. So what was that experience like going against Lamar for the first time?
Good experience, to be able to be on the same field with such a great competitor, great athlete. Just kind of not set it in your mind like this is Lamar Jackson, but kind of, put it in your perspective that this is another QB. This is still football. We bleed the same. We tie our shoes the same. So, it's kind of that mindset, and that kind of roots from where I'm from. But same mindset, same game, and same plays. We're trying to just adapt to a different environment. That's all it is.
And you got to be always ready. You never always know where the ball is. You got to be very ball aware on a lot of those option plays that they run. And one thing I noticed when I went back and watched tape that game, your ability to get off of blocks, you would think, these big linemen get on you. You can get off of those very well. What's your mindset in those situations, and how are you able to do that so effectively?
Well, it's almost like you take a passive aggressive kind of like feel. They are expecting linebackers to go head on, to try to, use power on power. But of course, if it's power on power, they're going to succeed. So I approach some blocks passive, and I approach some of them aggressive, depending on the speed that I'm, calculated and the speed that I'm going. So if I'm going really fast, I'll take a passive approach when I get to the line to be able to kind of use their weight against them and then get off of them. So it's like it's hard to explain, but because I'm really reacting off of almost second nature.
Sure.
But it's a certain technique to it.
Yeah, you do a great job with it. Do you think your days as a basketball star helped you do this? Because you see you on tape and you're flying sideline to sideline, but you have a unique ability. There's some guys that once they're on their angle, they have a hard time then stopping. You're very good at going full speed, breaking down, and still making plays without overrunning the play. Is that something that you always were able to do football, or do you think that maybe some of the start-stop of basketball and your Andre Iguodala-like game has translated to that aspect of football?
Yeah, possibly. To be honest, possibly. If you edit the film and you put a basketball in one of my hands, I think some of the plays you can almost kind of picture a crossover, a basketball move, along with the conditioning in the basketball too, the suicides, which I'm very familiar with. If anybody knows, Coach Freon from Bethel High School. So no, definitely, I think it could translate in terms of basketball to football, football to basketball, and certain things always come to play when we're talking about different sports and have similar traits and movements and things like that. So,
what do you think about this? Is game 13? It's a long season, and do you feel like a rookie still at this point? Do you think, wow, the guy that was in Kansas City in week 1, that's a completely different guy than now in terms of my knowledge and comfort?
Yeah, you never truly play with the mindset of I'm a rookie, or you never truly walk the facility like hey, I'm a rookie, until it gets to like the vets, and you gotta respect the vets. Like, all right, yeah, I'm a rookie. But other than that, man, when you're on the field and you're in meetings, you take a veteran approach, you take a veteran mindset to be able to be consistent, to be able to dial in on what needs to be done, the attention to detail, to making sure that you're always focused and really put into play or put into display the things that you've learned over the past time. So it's getting to late in the season, and I'm just trying to be as consistent as possible.
And you've always talked about Anthony Walker and Malcolm Smith, the veterans, helping you out. What's kind of that relationship been like? Because lately you and AWOC on there, especially in a lot of those nickels or the big nickel formations when you're the two linebackers, you guys have done a tremendous job together, and you guys are racking up a lot of tackles and big plays.
Yeah, the relationship is always tight, with all the guys in the room. Just making sure that we continue to build on that. We have a great room. Coach always tells us that it's one of the greatest he's seen in terms of the linebacker core, in terms of different talents and the things that we can do. So it's very hard to decide, rotations and things like that. So, but all of the guys are tight. We stay tight. Everybody has a different role. Of course, you have the super vets like Malcolm, and then you have the vets, with Waywalk. And then you have other guys that have seen a lot of football, like Elijah Lee, and other guys that could possibly give you insight, like Sione and Mac and Jacob and Tony as well. So it's all a unit, and it's different parts of the body that make the one, and that relationship has to stay within the body. If it departs, then that's where we crumble. But just trying to build it every day.
So a couple of weeks ago, you were mic'd up. I think it was the Lions game. You were mic'd up, and you responded to interceptions by your teammates with what I thought it was an interesting celebration. I liked it. I didn't know it was kind of like the as you come running out onto the field. What is that? What are you doing there? It reminded me, honestly, of when I used to play intramural basketball back in my college days. After I'd score, I'd kind of run around and do this kind of like bird thing, like after every shot I made. So that's what it reminded me of. I loved it. What kind of, when you saw it, what's going on there?
To be honest, I thought I was mic'd up. So like, if you watch the whole mic'd up film, like I'll be talking like that. So I forgot I was mic'd up. So like, I'm just making noise. Everything that you see is really like natural, because it's really, I forgot I was mic'd up. So the stuff I was doing wasn't like, he has a mic on him. I was just, trying to have fun, just, doing what I do and that was good, actually. I'm glad I forgot, because now I can go back and see like, what would I really be, doing and things like that.
Right.
But, good conversations and good celebrations. It's all a unit, it's all a team. And, what we hearken on is family. So that's what we try to uplift our brothers and things like that. So
Well, yeah, I mean, against the Ravens, you had 4 opportunities to do what I'm going to call the JOK interception call. You know, that's what you like to do after the picks. You had 4 of those there. Is that something did that continue against the Ravens?
Yeah. I always switch it up, you know. It's always a hop somewhere in there. Yeah, I'm a big hop guy, so there's always a hop somewhere in there.
I love it. All right, before we get back to obviously this game on Sunday, real quick, Notre Dame, shocking situations. Your thoughts, if you want to.
No, yeah. Well, you know, University of Notre Dame, you know, it's about the people, but Notre Dame will always be Notre Dame. Coach Freeman always says, you know, but I'm glad for the situation on both parties. I'm glad that Coach Kelly got what he needed or got what he wanted out of the situation, and I'm glad Marcus Freeman also got what he needed and what he wanted out of the situation. I actually drove there. I tweeted, I was like, look, I'm gonna have to go talk to Schwarber. I'm gonna have to go talk to somebody at Notre Dame. We need Marcus Freeman. That's my guy, man. That's my friend and cool guy and knowledgeable guy of his subject, and I'm glad he's in that position.
So you went over the bye week to go put in a word for him.
No, I went over there, but it was kind of just like I'm gonna just go just to kind of like be funny with the internet and not take a picture or whatever. And I got a lot of response. So I drove. This is the bye week. I'm not doing anything. So took a road trip over there. Went to the bookstore, saw a couple of people, and really that was it. I didn't want to gas it too much.
Sure. What's it like going back to campus after you've made it in the NFL, having success here in your rookie year and all that?
Yeah, I was really trying to stay low key until I took that picture. I was low key, and I took the picture, and then my phone just started blowing up. I was like, come see me, holler at me, such and such. But I was really just chilling. I didn't really see anybody.
All right, so that's fun. I like that. And then now here you are back here, Ravens again, same team 2 weeks in a row. That's probably got to be a first for you. And then, what's kind of the approach here? You guys still have everything you want in front of you. Every game probably feels like a playoff game from this point forward, starting this Sunday.
Yeah, every game is a playoff game. Better yet, every game is a championship game. Just in terms of our approach, in terms of our sense of urgency, as it pertains to being able to succeed, being able to focus on the little things so that we can get what we want. If we take that approach to every game from here on out, I believe we'll be very successful in our results. And it's a beauty to be in this position too, because everybody counts you out. Everybody counts you out. Nobody looks at you as a contending opponent, but it's always a good thing to come from the back. Come from the back. So
that's right. Surprise them right here. You think you're disrespecting us? Well, just watch this, and you guys have that opportunity. Look, as a D, you've given up 16 or fewer 5 of the last 6 games. That's hard to do in the National Football League. You guys are coming together for this stretch run, and I'm excited to see what you can do. I'm excited to see what this D can do. Excited to see what this team can do, because it is here, and the time is now, quite frankly.
Yeah, we have to focus on what we can focus on.
Back in 30.
The defense controls the defense. The offense controls the offense. The special teams controls the special teams. We can help each other by giving each other little assets and giving each other little nuggets to play off of, like, short distance or, fumbles and turnovers. You can do things to help, but, everybody has to do their job. Ones until we get to 11. So, that's that body that I was speaking of, and that's that family that I'm speaking of. So
I love it. JOK, we're happy you're here, happy you're on the squad, and looking forward to see what you do this Sunday against the Ravens. Appreciate the time.
Blessed love. All right. See ya.
He's got a chance to go down. I mean, he's a franchise cornerstone pillar. He's got a chance to go down as a great one. I mean, when he's on the field and been healthy, he's been sensational all year, and he just flashes.
I say it all the
Every
time. If you could buy stock in a Brown that is not, an established star, so
yes,
no Miles, no Denzel,
yeah,
anybody on this roster, the person that I would want to invest heavily in is JOK. I think he'll be a dominant star for a decade.
Yep.
And we talked a little bit about, he was a great basketball player in high school, was, first team All-State basketball, wide receiver, and on defense in football, both sides in football. And I asked him, because when you watch him, his sideline to sideline is crazy how he's able to stop. Some guys have a lot of speed, but they can't break down. They don't have body control. And then when in the interview, I was talking to him about whether it's due to his basketball background, and I definitely think there's something to that because
no question,
you have to sound like he played
stop.
He played for a coach who made him run a lot of suicides, so I think he's very good at full speed stopping and going the other direction.
Yeah, that played a lot into it. This Sunday is the Browns' First and 10 Toy Drive presented by EMS in collaboration with Marine Corps Toys for Tots program. Bring your new unwrapped toys or monetary donations to First Energy Stadium before the Ravens game. Receive a Give 10 wristband, and thank you for your support, and go Browns. Still so much more to come, including the scores. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. When a medical mistake cause you injury, call the medical malpractice attorneys at 1-800-ELK Ohio. Elk and Elk's a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. Tomorrow on the program, Kadri Ishmael joins us. Also, over-unders returns and the scores. And Gibby says a few more surprises in store. So you have that to look forward to from the Giant P. In terms of tonight, you've got Pittsburgh at Minnesota and the Steelers getting 3.
Dalvin, either don't play or play the whole game like normal. That's it, number one. Number two, Vikings 24, Steelers 23.
Same.
Thursday.
Dalvin play or don't play, but let us know.
Yeah.
Let us know one way or another.
And 100%.
Yeah. The next level coming up next. Thanks for listening.